And we are back at Up North at 4. Today we are joined with co-writer, co-producer Pamela Fullerton. Thank you so much for coming on here.
It's absolutely my pleasure.
Thank you.
And we're going to talk about the a newly released Wisconsin documentary. Something so powerful, amazing, beautiful. What's going on?
This is a documentary, and we love the fact that it's coming out in honor of Vietnam Veterans Day, which of course is tomorrow. And the documentary is Honor in the Air, and it is about one of Wisconsin's greatest, but unfortunately unsung military heroes. This is the nose cone art from his last helicopter, and there is a poster, and here's a picture of him, handsome devil too. And
Captain Scott R. Elwin.
Correct.
Okay.
And he is the most decorated Army helicopter pilot from the Vietnam War. He served 5 tours in Vietnam. He had 2 Distinguished Flying Crosses, Silver Star, 9 Bronze Stars, multiple Purple Hearts, Cross of Gallantry. But he had, in terms of Army official records, 136 combat air medals.
Wow.
Wow.
You got 1 combat air medal for every 25 hours of flight time in combat, but your life expectancy as a helicopter pilot or crew was 30 seconds in combat.
What?
So
Doesn't
yeah,
make
I mean,
sense.
it really is.
The math isn't nothing, right?
It's astonishing. Of course, he did get shot down about 3 or 4, 5 times, but the battalion records say that he earned 207 of these medals, but it really doesn't make any difference because either of them is the record for any military aviator in history, whether they came from the Army, the Air Force, the Navy, or Marines. So this young man truly was an exemplary Army pilot and hero. And the fact that he was nominated twice for the Congressional Medal of Honor doesn't hurt either. But the thing is, this is not just a war documentary. It's also a love story, which is really kind of amazing because he was so in love with the country and the people, and he fell in love with his wife and married her there and brought her back, which is amazing when you stop to think about the fact that this was a country until 1967 which forbade interracial marriages. And so he brought his wife home and their 2 children. But unfortunately, after serving 5 tours in Vietnam, he was killed by a drunk driver. He came home to Wisconsin, and a mechanic who had been drinking all day told his wife he was going to go out and commit suicide and take somebody else with him. And he came up over a hill in a blinding rainstorm, head-on into Scott's car, and killed him.
Ouch.
So that life was cut short. Scott was on his way to the War College in Washington, D.C., where they had invited him to interview as an instructor. And he had also had a call from Senator Proxmire's office saying, hey, you know, there's going to be a congressional opening soon, and we'd like to know if you'd be interested. But interestingly enough, back in 1967, what he told Proxmire was, I don't know if you can maintain your honor in Washington.
Ooh, that was pretty...
So,
yeah.
It's kind
Obviously,
of
you felt the need to elevate his story. Where'd you start? Where do you start with a project this size?
We started by trying to locate all of the living members of the units in which he had fought for his 5 tours over there. And we ended up with about 250 transcript pages of interviews with men that he had served with, and family friends and friends of Scott's. For example, one of the friends was a young man by the name of David Keene, who, when he was Scott's age and they were in college together, he was the head of the Young Conservatives. Well, Scott came from a family that attended John F. Kennedy's inauguration.
A little different ideology-wise, yes.
But the 2 were just cared about one another so deeply. And David went on to become a speechwriter for Nixon and Agnew, and was the president of the NRA. So very disparate people. But the funny thing is, they all admired Scott and thought of him as a hero. One of the men in the documentary refers to him as a legend.
Wow. It's so inspirational and so amazing to hear about all of that, and it kind of takes us back, I'd say, to relive that history, right? It kind of takes us back to that past, which is great.
And those men were so reviled and so ignored and so disrespected when they came back. And the funny thing is, people do not recognize that 70% of the men who fought in Vietnam were volunteers, whereas everybody talks about the great generation of World War II, and 70% of them were draftees who didn't want to go. But these are young men who were gallant and fought for what they thought were all the right reasons. And it was very difficult for them to come back, and I think so many of them have never been able to share their stories. And this isn't a documentary just about Scott. It truly, truly is about all of those with whom he fought and served.
Yeah, well, we love this, and we love you for doing this. Thank you very much. You're also an author. You have a book coming out.
Yes,
what is
I
this
do.
book about?
It's another book, and this was the first one. The second one is tentatively titled Milking for Barn Cats. And stories...
Is that the old cats?
and stories of 16 siblings. And it is about the family in which Scott was raised. A bunch of preachers' kids raised in rural Wisconsin, to books about history and philosophy and theology and honor. And I think that's probably where he came to have such an understanding of duty and service and gallantry.
Wow. Well, so tell just the viewers if they're interested, because you're doing a preview this weekend, the documentary where they can go, and also information on your new book.
Okay. The documentary is being previewed in Wausau at the Marathon County Public Library at 1 o'clock on Saturday. And there will be a question and answer following with the producers, Susan Reitz and myself, and some of Captain Alwyn's family.
Okay, and then the release of your book, your new book?
The new book, Milking for Barn Cats, is coming out in April of 2025. And so we'll be doing some preliminary presentations on that with story readings and things at book festivals.
We applaud you.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so
well
much
done.
for
Thank you for having me.
And we are short on time, but we'll be back with you guys here in a little bit.